I think the grace of Heavenly Mother, compassion of Buddha Maitreya, Jigong Buddha, virtue of Patriarch, Sijun Simu, and also Grandmaster and Junior Master Lee for allowing me to host this session. And I thank you all for your participation this Sunday morning. Today is an exciting day because we are going to talk about travel. We all love to travel, right? And when we go on travel, what are we bringing with us? Money, credit card. What else? So if you're a backpacker, like going to a hiking trail, what would you bring? Probably food, like some kind of cracker, biscuits, and some basic clothing. If you go to the mountain, I think you don't need credit card. But if you go to the city, you will need credit card. This is the message that Lao Tzu wants to convey. If we go on travel, what is the most important thing you want to bring with you? Hence, the title is called The Importance of Travel Essential. And this title really comes from this two characters here. It's called 知重章, 知重. 知, the first character is baggages. And it can also mean supplies and gears for the troops, for the military. 重 is significance, importance. So it's something really important that you cannot do it without, something that you have to carry with you. So when we go on travel, what do we need to carry with us? Just think about it. And because the concept is so important, I'm going to spend some time explain the concept of 知重, which is this two character here. So let me elaborate this two terms in greater detail. So 知重, literal meaning is wagons that carries supplies and gears for the troops. So when we talk about wagon, it's the wagon for the military purpose. It's not to carry people. It's not a carriage. It's a wagon to carry supplies. And this supplies is important for the military troops. Imagine the troops go out for battle, but all the wagons are stolen or the wagon is forgotten. What's going to happen to the troops? Whatever stuff that's important is not carried with them in the trip. What's the essential item to be carried for the troops? That's the food, of course, the firearm, the ammunition, and the equipment. Imagine the military go out to fight for the enemy. They run out of the ammunition. They run out of food, run out of the equipment. And if there's no food, how can they fight? They cannot, right? This kind of essential items are important for troops. So the other aspect for 知重 is the essential item. Essential items in the luggage or baggage that people carry during travel. So you can see whether if we go on travel or if we go for a military purpose, it's always something that we have to carry, and that's the essential item. So this is the literal meaning. This is where the difficulty comes in for translation. So in a sentence, when I want to translate, do I translate as wagons for the military, or do I translate as the essential item for travel? Okay, so we talk about the literal meaning for 知重. The above items or above meaning is for travel and for military purpose, but the figurative meaning is for our spiritual journey. We are all on this spiritual journey. Lao Tzu really want to talk about in life, what do you want to carry with everywhere you go? Every day when we wake up, we have a day trip going to the supermarket. We have a grocery trip. Maybe we go to school. My daughter go to school every day. So she has like daily trip. We go to work. So the distance between my house to work, that's called a daily trip. So whether it's a short trip, going to work, or going to like grocery shopping, or long trip, like I go to Florida or I go to Taiwan, that's long trip. So regardless what kind of trip, spiritually, we also have a spiritual trip too. That's where we all are now. We are on this spiritual journey. So on this spiritual trip, spiritual journey, what are we carrying with us? And that is our conscience, our moral value, our ethic code, our spirit, and of course, it's our Tao too. I forgot to mention that this picture is in the ancient time, people go on travel, they carry this kind of bag. So in the modern time, we have the luggage comes with 4-wheel, but back then they have this kind of bags for travel. And you see this gentleman here, in the old time, they use bamboo to make some kind of a construction so that they can carry in the bag. When we translate this chapter, the title, some people translate as luggage or baggage. I really like the concept of baggage because if we look in the definition of luggage and baggage, there's a difference. Luggage is just the luggage, it's the container only. It does not have the items inside. But baggage is the essential item in the baggage, so it's about the items inside. But when I translate as baggage, it doesn't sound right because here we study spirituality, we say we try to get rid of the emotional baggage. So this baggage has a very negative connotation. So I try not to use baggage, but in a way, this is also an important term too. So I kind of list out what does baggage mean for our session. Literally, it means the suitcase or the container that carries one's important essential belonging during travel, and the military equipment and supplies that are movable. So in this chapter only, we are not talking about emotional residues from past experience, because if you listen to a lot of our talks from the previous session, we talked about emotional baggage. I use a lot of this dictionary here. It's www.zdic.net. So this is where I get the most comprehensive meaning or definition from this two character. This two character, trust me, is the most difficult one to translate. There's different way to translate these two terms, and people use cover wagon, people use luggage, baggage, many translations. And the reason is that because this one has different level of meaning, so it just depends on how you look at it. And this image is the image of zizong when we talk about military term. So as you can see here, there's a horse carry a 2-wheel wagon, and on this wagon it has maybe like 2 bags. So there's a horse here. So this is the wagon for military purpose, that it carries the essential item. And on this picture is the wagon without the items on it. And on this image, you can see this wagon has some kind of a container. It looks like ammunition. I think to understand this chapter, we have to know the meaning of zizong. So hopefully we all understand the concept here. We will begin our chapter here. Heavy is the root to the light. Serenity is the sovereign of education. Therefore, the sage journeys the entire day without parting from his travel essentials. Though in comfort and with splendorous sight, he transcends beyond. How could a king with 10,000 chariots carry out himself lightly and trivialize the world? When light, one loses the root. When agitated, one loses one's serenity. Let me repeat this verse in Chinese. 重为轻根，静为躁君，是以圣人终日行不离之重。虽有荣冠，燕处超然，奈何万圣之主，而以身轻天下。轻则失本，躁则失君。So as you can see, this chapter can be divided into 3 sections. I like to divide them so that we can digest them easily. The first one is intro, second one is body, and third one is summary. Here I want to ask you a question. I highlight the term in purple here. Like I told you before, I don't want to translate as travel baggage because it has a negative connotation. So here it's really about travel baggage that contain the essential. And on the next line here it says, how could a king with 10,000 chariots carry out himself? Here you can see the contrast. There's a sage, and here is the king. And the sage travel, here the king travel with chariot. So do you think the sage travel with wagon, carriage, or do you think the sage travel by walk? Because based on Chinese, it just says travel. It doesn't really say walk. It can be travel by wagon or by chariot. Or do you think that the sage travel with baggage or wagon? It's something to think about, because how you perceive the picture is how you would translate it. So in my mind, when I was doing the translation, I imagined a sage. Most likely, he does not have much financial wealth. So most likely he will travel by walk, not by wagon.
Well, I want to share something. So in
Go ahead.
Cantonese, xing is actually the word that is used to say walking.
Oh, okay.
So I know Cantonese, kept a lot of the ancient attributes and characteristic. So like we don't say 走路, we say 行路 or 喊路. So
Oh,
then
okay.
if that's the case, then it would be walking.
Oh, great. Yeah, that makes sense. I totally forgot the etymology on the character xing. Xing is walking. Good. So so we can picture that the sage walk to somewhere and carrying a bag, right? So it's not on a wagon. That's cool. Thank you. Because it took me a couple of days to think about it. Thank you, Kai. So you can see that the intro part and the summary are very similar. It talks about the light, and then here also talks about the light. So it's just a different perspective. Lao Tzu talk about heaven is the route to the light in the intro, but in the summary, it says that what happened if you focus on the light, one loses the root. So it's just a different perspective to wrap up the chapter. And I find that the logic of thinking really wrap up the chapter in a summary. So let's begin our first line. Heavy is the root to the light. So when we first look at the sentence, sometimes it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because the sentence is so short and we cannot understand what do you mean heavy is the root to the light. Let me explain to you. Heavy is referred to something very important, and light is referred to something less important. So let's look at this picture here. So if we will build a building, what is considered importance? When the foundation be considered importance, more important than the structure of the building above on the roof, or when the roof be important than the foundation? Of course, we will know that the foundation of the house is very important. We all have ordered cake from bakery store, right? When you order cake, by the way, we all love cake, right? I love cake. I love dessert. So when we order cake, first we think about, okay, I want chocolate cake, I want coffee cake, strawberry cake, vanilla cake. Are we more concerned about the cake, or are we more concerned about the little cherry on the top? Of course, we are more concerned about the ingredient of the cake, the flavor of the cake, not so much about the icing, not so much about the decoration. So when we talk about the cake in this perspective, the body of the cake is far more important than the decoration of the cake, such as the icing, the strawberry, maybe the little pineapple, the little mango on top of the cake. So the mango and the pineapple on top of the cake is something light, it's less important. So if we look at this picture, root is more important than the branch and the leaves. So if we want the tree to grow, what do we want to put the fertilizer on? We will put it on the root, right? Not on the branches. If you put it on the branches, you will waste your fertilizer. So therefore, we understand the concept, heavy is the root to the light. Heavy is referred to something very significant, very important. But Lao Tzu talk about this. We have to take it beyond. What does Lao Tzu really mean? Again, this is something has to do with our spiritual journey. We are on this spiritual journey. What is something very important for us? It's our Tao, our essence. So all these are synonyms: spirit, inner being, our higher self, conscience, and the Atman. Atman is in a Hindu term. And what is considered something trivial, something unimportant? Our physical body, our senses, our behavior. I would say both of these are important, but Lao Tzu place more importance on our inner being, because inner being lasts for many, many lifetimes. Inner being, higher self, it lasts forever. Does not have beginning, does not have end, and it will continue carry with you, with your essence. But our physical body, it's just something that will only last for our lifetime only, for this lifetime. I'm not saying that physical body is not important, but we have to know what is important. So we have to make a decision. And then the decision is for enjoyment. Is it for your physical enjoyment, or you want to make decision based on your moral code? And once you ask yourself this question, sometimes you will derive the answer yourself. So on this image here, I elaborate on what is the branch and the leaves signify. It means the physical body. I mean, figuratively, it means the physical body, our senses, and our behavior. And the physical body, senses, and behavior really, it's really just a manifestation from our essence. In other words, if you don't cultivate well, whatever you manifest will not be so aligned with Tao. So it's important to cultivate on our root. Serenity is the sovereign of agitation. Serenity, what does serenity mean? Literally, it means tranquility. It means serenity and tranquility. In its figurative meaning is, again, same as the last verse. It means the Tao essence, our spirit, our higher consciousness. And agitation. Agitation is something very tense, hot-tempered, irritable, agitated. Its figurative meaning, it's monkey mind. And sometimes when we experience our life and we go through a lot of emotional roller coaster from the moment when we wake up. If we look at the time, it's late, then we start to get agitated, we start to get tense, hurry this, hurry that, skip a breakfast, and then you just jump start on your car and get to work. It's not peaceful at all. This term here, it's all about us. It's all about life. Life is full of activities, full of motion. And that activity and motion, when it manifests into our behavior, that's how other people perceive us. So this term can also be explained as temperament too. Some people have good temperament. Some people have not so good temperament. Let me explain to you this Tao in greater detail in its etymology form. Let's look at this picture here. Tao is made out of like a circle on the top. So this circle here, or a square, if we study etymology, we will know that this orange circle here, it represents the kneecap. And what's underneath, it means to stop. It's an image of our feet when you combine these two together. This two image means feet. And then here, right here, it means tree. The character of mu, it means tree. And then what's on top is three mouths. We wouldn't say it's three human mouths. We would say it's three birds. Because who is going to likely to reside on tree? Most likely birds, right? And imagine there are three birds. So in Chinese, if you have three, that signifies it's multiple, it means a lot. So three birds talking a lot, they make noise on the tree, and then there's feet. So it just shows that there's a lot of activity going on. So it signifies it's our monkey mind is like going everywhere. Can you imagine what kind of situation you are in now if we use this character here? Maybe it's a time when we are angry at somebody. Or maybe somebody is angry at us and we don't know what to do and we cannot calm our mind. I find this character very descriptive. And the next character is Jin. This character is a hand holding a rod. And this rod looks like it has a snake on it. In the ancient time, sometimes people want to communicate with heaven. They will go through some kind of a holy animal. So they use snake. So this symbol alone, it just means authority. Authority and speech. So somebody speak with authority, most likely as somebody who is very powerful, sovereign, maybe a monarch, a ruler, or a chief, or a king. To explain further, serenity is what's inside of us. It represents our spirit, our inner being, our higher self. And the serenity, whatever is inside of us, supposed to be in total tranquility. And whatever outside, on the other hand, is the education. So the relationship between serenity and education is that education is the subordinate of the sovereign, who is represent the serenity. So education is a representation of somebody who has monkey mind. And this is what we all understand, right? Monkey mind and monkey body. If we have monkey mind, we will have monkey body, and we are like going everywhere. And our mouth is like everywhere. We talk recklessly. We see everywhere. And our hand is like everywhere. In other words, we misbehave, and we talk divisively, and we talk in gossip. We talk about something that we are not supposed to talk about, and we see something that we are not supposed to see. Our senses, our eyes, our ears, our nose, our bodily sensation is just like everywhere. It's out of control. Therefore, this picture speaks for itself. Our behavior and our temperament should submit to our inner self, to our spirit, because ultimately this is our true self, our master. And whatever outside, it's the Tao that manifests from within. One thing I want to talk about temperament. We all have different temperament, right? And this temperament is not what we have. It's not just what we have in this life. It's something that carry with us in the previous life. And the best example that we can see is that a mother maybe have 2 or 3 children, and this 2 or 3 babies comes from the same womb, from the same mother. But this 3 child or 2 child have different temperament. And why is that? And that's because it's the karmic force that brought from their previous life. Although the kids are born from the same family, they will have a different behavior. And because it's the karmic force carried from the previous life, every one of us will manifest different temperaments. And that's what we call behavior. Let me put it this way. So whatever outside of us is a manifestation of our master. The master is called our true self. So if you are driving, and we all have driving experience, right? We are driving, and then we got into an accident, and it's our fault. So when the police come, would you say, it's my fault, or it's the fault of my car? Most likely we will say it's our fault, right? Because we are the driver. We are the master of the car. The car is just a vehicle. The car will behave different way. It's a manifestation from the driver's mind, from driver's control. So when the car got into an accident, it's the driver's fault. Everything has to do with the master. So if we make a mistake, if I say something wrong, if I speak something wrong, if I see something that I'm not supposed to see, is it the fault of my eyes, or the fault of my ears, or the fault of my mouth, or is it the fault of my mind that I did not cultivate well? So to understand this line, we can best illustrate from chapter 2. So chapter 2 talks about manifestation and essence. It's kind of related to what we talked about here. The first one is existence and non-existence forget each other. Difficulty and easy complement each other. Long and short form each other. High and low support each other. Voice and sound harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. So the one that I highlighted in red is the essence. That's the importance. That's the important item. Not to say that this one is not important, but if we will compare these two, This one is more important. And this one is the essence. Let's go with the first example here I have. The first one is existence and non-existence forget each other. If I have an apple here, where does the apple come from? It comes from non-existence, because before the apple is born, it really comes from the seed. And before the seed was born, it comes from its mother seed. And before the mother seed come from, it was coming from whatever apples generated or produced from the same farmer or from a different farmer. So it's that apple seed that produced so many apples down the line. So where does the tree come from? The tree did not exist before. The tree comes from a little tiny seed, but this little tiny seed was not even there. Therefore, non-existence is the essence of existence. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with single step. Would you say difficulties is really difficult? But it is difficult because it's made out of different steps. So if you will break down into different steps, and within the different step, there's the easy task and then a more difficult task. So if we will break it down, then we will understand the essence of difficulty. It's really easy. So a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. Would you say 1,000 miles is difficult, or would you say single step is easy? In other words, all the difficulties are derived from each single step. Long and short form each other. So if you look at the railroad here, the railroad looks long, huge. It's like endless. But each railroad is made out of small little section, small little metal bar, and is made out of many pieces of nuts and bolts. So short is the essence of long. Long is the accumulation of short. High and low support each other. So if we will build a block wall, retaining wall, so if you will hire a contractor to build a retaining wall, the contractor is not going to build a retaining wall from the ground. The contractor will start building the wall by digging beneath the earth, say 6 feet or 4 feet, 5 feet down below, to make sure it has a great foundation. Therefore, having a good foundation will support the high structure, right? And number 5, voice and sound harmonize each other. If you have sound of character, you will find that you generally do not need to worry about your reputation. We always say that this person has sound of character. So that character is the essence of voice. So voice represents the reputation. Nowadays, a lot of restaurants, they look for good Google review, Yelp review. Reputation is the voice from the customer. So having a good voice, having a good reputation from the customer really comes from the character, really comes from the sound, really comes from that little element. And front and back follow each other. So if you have a restaurant, you are a restaurant owner, you know what is important. Is the chef more important than the waiter, or the waiter more important than the chef? But I will say that the chef is more important, because the chef represents the soul for the restaurant. It represents the quality of the restaurant, represents the taste of the restaurant. Or maybe I put it bluntly in a business term, the chef makes much more money than the waiter. Usually the chef makes salary basis, and the waiter it can be trained. It can be trained. Also, the waiter needs good customer service, but the chef really need experience to sustain the restaurant in order to bring customer to the restaurant. So now we understand the concept. So everything in life, there's always essence and manifestation. So when we look at these 2 sentences, we understand heavy and serenity represent our essence, represent the primary. And the manifestation is the light. Just earlier, I give you an example. The branch and the leaf is considered light of the tree. And agitation here, it's our temperament, it's our behavior. This is the manifestation of our Tao cultivation. Another way to explain the second line is that non-existence is the origin of existence, or non-movement is the origin of movement. Therefore, the sage journeys the entire day without parting from his travel essential. 是以圣人终日行，不离之众. So here, on this verse, 圣人, we usually translate as sage. Of course, I always say that it translates to us too, because we want to put ourselves into this line. Lao Tzu is talking to me. Next word is 终日. 终日 is, it means all day, but it also implies every breath, every minute, every hour from this moment to the end of my lifetime. So we want to carry our 自重, carry our essential item for our lifetime on this spiritual journey. Lao Tzu really wants us to understand that whether we go on physical journey or spiritual journey, there's something that we need to bring with us. And what is that? I would say it's our moral compass, our Tao compass, because this is our principle that can guide us in our life. It's the compass that will tell us what we do right and wrong, and sometimes it will help us to make a decision too. So in comfort and with splendorous sights, he transcends beyond. 虽有荣观，燕处超然. So this verse is talking about even a person has a glamorous outlook. First character is talking about glamorous, prosperity, magnificent. Some people are very fortunate. They are already surrounded by glamorous outlook on their career. They have a beautiful family. They have everything they need. They don't need to worry about anything. They enjoy their material world in their life. They have good family to be with. And some people, they are not so fortunate. They work their whole life, and eventually they receive this prosperity. And this prosperity are the blessings from above. The concept is like boomerang. So good seed will yield good fruit, and the seed will multiply eventually. And when it comes back, we will be able to harvest our fruit. And this guan, this term guan, I want to explain. It's how we project ourselves and how we are being perceived. The literal meaning is that it's outlook, it's appearance. It can be the appearance, how people look at us. On this verse, we can look at it as both ways. I perceive myself as sufficient. I have everything, and everything is sufficient. I have a bright future. I have so much blessing from heaven, and I have a great family. So this is internal things. And people can look at me as, oh, Joanna, she lives in comfort. She's so comfortable. She drives a Lexus. She lives in a big house, big land. She has everything. So we can look at it both ways. So when a person is in this situation, this person transcends beyond. So I want to explain to you 燕处超然, this four character. 燕 means joy, happiness, content, and comfort. And 处 means to situate it in the situation. 超然 is to transcend beyond. If a person does not transcend, what's going to happen to that person? If a person is surrounded by a bright outlook of career, a person who has sufficient, but this person thinks, I don't have enough. I want more. I want more. And I'm always comparing. Then this kind of attitude will come up. And that is arrogant, overfeel, egoistic, bragging, and belittle. So it's important we transcend and beyond our comfort situation. So if we can transcend, that means we are humble, we can accept, we can forgive others easily. Just like this little girl, she's happy riding a bicycle with a bird behind her. Maybe she's doing a job, a small job, delivering flour. This verse here, so in comfort with splendorous sight, he transcends beyond. It's really talking about one person is happy to be with his true self. He's not looking out to enjoy the outlook of the external enjoyment. So I want to elaborate on this term here. This term is 处. That means to continue to stay in that situation, continue to stay low and to remain low. Your attitude is low. So if we would understand this sentence, we would insert the concept into here. But I don't want to put it here because it would just be too much for translation. So this part will have to be omitted. So when we translate this, I think the complete concept should be so in comfort and with splendorous sight. He remained to stay with his true self and he transcends beyond. That will be the complete translation from me. Now let's go to the next one. How could a king with 10,000 chariots carry out himself lightly and trivialize the world? I paraphrase this sentence as, how can a king be in a superior position? Because it's talking about a king who has 10,000 chariots. He indulged his bodily sensation. Why indulging his bodily sensation? In the earlier chapter, we talked about light. So light represents the bodily sensation, the physical need. So the king really indulged in his bodily sensation and minimize his responsibility on the world. If we have a king like this, I think the people will be suffering, right? They will be crying for their life because their king are not doing anything for them. Would you want a governor like that in your state? Would you want a president like that they don't care about the people? So this sentence starts with how, 奈何. So Lao Tzu say how. It's the expression of how come? How can this happen? He expressed it hopelessly, powerless. The situation is out of control, but there's no other way out. How can this happen? He expressed sadly. And this character here, Seng, it means one chariot plus 4 horse. Here you can see this is a chariot and this is 4 horse. Of course, this is a picture that I get it from the Google image. For a king to sit on this chariot, the chariot with 4 horse, this chariot is kind of small. So we need to kind of imagine the chariot with a bigger size. This term here, 万圣之主, of course, it means a king with a lot of power, right? But figuratively, it means a ruler everybody respects. It can also mean that human species in the highest position in the hierarchy of living creature. A lot of time we say that human is the highest species. Why? Because human has intelligence, we can invent and we can create. So a lot of time we have a lot of power to do things for other species. We can do things for animal around us, chicken, sheep, cows, pigs, rabbit, many sentient beings around us. Yet we indulge our bodily sensation and some humans decide to take over other species' life and to minimize humans' responsibility on the world. That's why in the Tao Temple, we encourage people to be vegetarian so that we can fulfill our spiritual duty, and that is to be responsible. We are in this superior position. We are in the highest position in the hierarchy of living creature. We can choose not to eat them. Also, it can mean that this term 万圣之主, it can mean that elder or senior in the organization, such as in the church perspective, we call it pastor, priest, or in our Tao Temple, we call master. And then in the Tao Temple, we have master, and sometimes we have patriarch, 前人. So all this are highly respected figure in the organization. And on this slide, I want to focus on this verse here, carry out himself lightly and trivialize the world. So again, we talked about earlier, Qing. Qing means light. Look at this picture here. So what does light represent? Light represents something is not as important as heavy. Branches and leaves are not as important as the root. In other words, our physical body, our sensation, our behavior are all derived from our Tao. Therefore, when we look at this verse here, we want to interpret this verse based on this picture. How could the king carry out his sensation and forget about his root? So to carry out himself slightly and trivialize the world, this concept echoes with chapter 24. On this chapter 24 here, this 4 adjective here, it's really about somebody focusing on their false self. Because in our life, we are constantly battling with our true self and our false self. If we let our false self dominate us, and if we don't consider the importance, or if we are not awakened ourselves, we will be overwhelmed by our arrogance, by our assertion. In other words, we will look down everybody, and I'm the most superior one. My idea is always right. Yours is always wrong. My need is more important than any other people's need. If we have this kind of attitude, of course, in the king's perspective, the king is not going to care about anyone else. So Lao Tzu wants us to be awakened. What is more important? It is our root, our Tao, our essence. When light, one loses the root. When agitated, one loses one's sovereignty. So if we focus on the light, and if we focus on the agitation, on our behavior, isn't that game over? If we play game and if it's over, in the old time, we would just put another coin into the machine and then we can play one more time. But the game over here, it means we lose our lifetime. That's terrible. And it's very sad. How many lives do we have? Imagine each life that we come, we are going to spend on earth 60 to 80 years. I say 60 years, I'm sorry, because some people, they die young. So statistic research, nowadays, human average age is 60. So I should say that just 60 to 100 years. I shouldn't just say 80, because my mom is 82. So 60 to 100 years. So if our lifetime is 60 to 100 years, then how many lives are we going to come again? Each time we come, it's like torturing ourselves. We want to make the best of our life so that we can move on to the next game, right? If we are in game 2, and when we succeed, we are going to move on to game 3. And when game 3 is finished, we are going to advance to a more difficult game, game 4. But if you fail game 3, then next time when you play a game, you are going to continue to stay in game 3. Isn't that a waste of time? But if you can do it well, you can move on and move on and move on. And guess how many games are there? There must be a limit. And I can say that the last game will be Buddhahood. And eventually we will be there. But this is like a stepping stone. Eventually we will be there. So each time when we come to earth, try to make the best of ourselves. I want to explain about this character here, Ben. It also means root too, foundation and base. So this character originally is just a tree, but then here comes the dot, and it's the later scholar who extend the dot into a line. So this becomes the character of Ben. So Ben also signify root too. So this is the last verse of this chapter. When light, one loses the root. 轻则失本. When agitated, one loses one's sovereignty. 躁则失君. So we almost come to an end. Again, intro and summary are similar. It's just Lao Tzu talking in a different perspective. And here we can study these two together and these two together. So these two, it's more like us. We want to focus on true self. We in the Tao cultivator, we want to focus on the true self. So this is the cause and this is the effect. So if we focus on the cause here, we will be able to transcend beyond. If we focus on our true self, focus on the heavy, focus on the serenity, and we carry our travel essential with us. We always carry our Tao. We always remember our moral compass. We always communicate with our higher self, with our true self. What will be the result? The result will be we will transcend and beyond. Isn't that beautiful? And when we transcend and beyond, we are ready to move to the next game. That's exciting, right? This one in the green box. And this is where most people in the society are in now. How could a king with 10,000 chariots carry out himself lightly and trivialize the world? Most people in the society, they focus more on their bodily sensation, their bodily senses. They want to do something, why not? They want to do something based on their sensation, why not? So this is their cause. They focus more on their bodily sensation. Therefore, the effect is they lose their root. They lose their life. They are being controlled by their false self. Game over. And they will just have to come again to play the same old game with the same karma, with the same life lesson they have to do. So that's very sad and very devastating. The important message here is to focus on this top message here. Focus on our true self. Focus on our root. So thank you for being with me in the past 1 hour. And I thank the editor, Robert and Jenko, who helped me to build up this chapter, to make this chapter happen. This chapter is not easy to work on, but with our joint effort, therefore the chapter is presented today. And I thank Robert very much for his hard work and his collaboration. Thank you so much. If mistakes were made or said during today's sharing, I ask the forgiveness from the Heavenly Mother, Buddha Maitreya, Qigong Buddha, Patriarchs, Sister Simu, Grand Master and Senior Master and Junior Master. Thank you so much.